May storm, you bring in that summer warm, bringing all the birds to your door, singing for you. And that spring rain, singing those summer days, singing like a bird out of the cage, singing for you. Yeah, I've got a good heart and a worried mind, and I live a good life most of the time. And I don't got it all, but I've got what I need. You let it shine down on me. And that cool breeze, stinging those early leaves, swinging like a bird lost out at sea, singing for you. And that late snow, singing that summer glow, singing like a bird flying low, singing for you. Yeah, I've got a good heart and a worried mind, and I live a good life most of the time. Yeah, I don't got it all, but I've got what I need. You let it shine down on me. Seasons go, the rain gives way to sun. Change is really all I know, like a bird out on the run.
Oh, hello, beautiful people. Hello, hello. I'm gonna scroll through. I invite you to do the same, and I just want to see all your faces and who's gathered here, like we're coming into a room together, because we are coming into a room together. This is who has come together today. Hi, Jessica. I saw that wave. Hello. Aw. Hi, Gretchen. Hi, Sue. Trying to catch all the waves. Hi, Laura. Hello. Hi, Patricia. Hi, Melina. Aw. Well, here we are. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good middle of the night. I know y'all in Australia, it's the middle of the night. My name is Lydia Violet Hartunian. I am the founder and the director of School for the Great Turning, where you found yourself. And I am in Northern California, in Berkeley. And I have to tell you, as I was feeling into the field to come into this room, I really felt so strongly, like to the point where I'm on the verge of tears, the central love for Joanna Macy that is shared here. So I just want to honor that for a second. I could see in the response to the excitement for this webinar, yeah, just the depth of appreciation and love for this woman and the ways that she has accompanied us, some of us for the last 6 decades through these times, through the changes, through the harm through the liberation. And yeah, I just want to really honor that. And, that's why I'm here too. I'm here as someone who, has really humbly studied with her for 15 years. I felt very gripped by her teachings when I met her in grad school 15 years ago and kind of stayed close ever since. And I started this school to carry on her teachings. And I, even though she, as of 3 years ago, she is not teaching live with us anymore, we have at the school at least all these recordings. And we have the knowledge, and I have the experience, just as you do, I'm sure, that her teachings are timeless. I often tell her that, like, I'm like, Joanna, do you realize that you gave us work that only gets more relevant? And how special that is, and what a gift that is. And so, you know, what I am sharing with you today, I'm sharing with you from dialogue with Joanna that I'm still in, even though, she can't teach live anymore, but there's still many touch points in. And this teaching of the three dimensions of the Great Turning, which I'm going to bring to you today, but I'm going to splice in a recording of Joanna giving the teaching with School for the Great Turning. And then hopefully I will only empower that teaching. I felt inspired to offer this right now because of what I'm seeing happening in our movements. I feel very strongly, obviously, that these teachings stay relevant. I experience that. And I notice that as the pain, our collective pain in the world intensifies, our empathic pain of what we're witnessing and what we're going through, that sometimes we turn on each other within movement. And I have a lot of compassion for that, actually, because I can see that it's only because of pain, desperation, desperation for harm to stop. And I feel like I see really clearly that it's not our path to collective liberation. And here we have this teaching that invites us back home to each other, that invites us into each other's appreciation and arms and seeing each other with fresh eyes, as do many other teachings also. Adrienne Marie Brown has been speaking to this a lot lately, as do others. So yeah, so that's why I'm here. Um, and I think some of why you're here. And I imagine there's a lot of other reasons why you're here. And I hope to be able to meet some of those today. Okay. It really helps me because I can see some of you. Feel free to thumbs up, to nod, to like give any visual cues because that's how I feel you in this Zoom room. No pressure, no pressure, but it does support me as I offer this and as we grow this next hour together. Aw, thanks, Gary. That was nice. Gary made the heart thing happen, which I still don't know how to do that, but that was really nice. And again, just inviting in this beautiful teacher that we love so much, and we are finding our way to keep her very close to us. Okay, so I'm gonna just start. So I'm gonna play with you. So there's a course that Joanna and I created together called the Essential Joanna Macy. And this video. So the course is a series of me teaching and then pre-recorded videos from Joanna. And Joanna and I created this curriculum together, knowing that she was going to stop teaching soon and being like, what are the essential parts of your work that if someone were to take an essential Joanna Macy course, this is what would be in it. So this is from that course, which is also, I will confess, part of why I'm offering this webinar, because the course starts in a month. and I want this to be out in the world. So just so you know. Um, but anyway, this clip is from that curriculum, and so it's on the curriculum for about the Great Turning. So basically, for a little while, I'm gonna go back and forth between clips from this teaching from her, and then I will come in certain points and amplify it. I'll say this will probably happen for the next like 35 minutes. If we have 15 minutes at the end, let's enter into dialogue, community dialogue, and like let's just see how this goes, okay? Okay, let me bring up this video.
And as on this turning planet, moving through space at a gazillion miles per second, and hanging on through all the changing events to this living world, this exquisite planet, anchored so deep through gravity and our hearts and everything new that is happening to us through our openness, through our memories, through the calls that we hear, and a sense that we have that there are yet greater things that we will be doing with and for our darling, that's the word, we have a darling earth. Yes. I look out and I see my favorite, a palm tree on this side, and my yucca tree just peeping over my deck, and then this beautiful weeping birch with its lovely white branches and trunks branching up, shamelessly naked, uncovered yet with leaves. Oh, yes. So watch out how intoxicated you may get to feel just being alive. Wow.
So something that we often start with in the work that reconnects, and I think that is so supportive in our time, is starting with the root teaching of gratitude, of starting anything with gratitude, not because it's a Pollyanna practice, as Joanna used to say, but because when you live in a political economy that wants you to feel needy and insufficient, so you buy things, to practice gratitude, to take stock of what you do have within and around you, is a subversive political act. And wisdom traditions have taught us for thousands of years to root there, to start there. And so in this time where within milliseconds, the great unraveling is out on the landscape of this world, with us, in us, there is still a lifeline in rooting in the awe of being here at all, rooting in the awe of the trees that are still. I woke up, this was not on the weather forecast. I am in Northern California in August. I woke up today and it was raining. That I can both take great somatic pleasure in that, rooting in with the body of earth, and also see the hardships of our time. Joanna is such an invitation into that, a permission. And I have always appreciated that about her presence and her work, as have you. As have you. So now she's going to start, we are going to start going into the three. So the three dimensions of the Great Turning teaching, it's like a staple teaching from the work that reconnects. It starts with the three stories of our time, and then she goes into the three dimensions of the Great Turning. And the reason why having some kind of framework which this is just one, right? There's many, but a framework for how we see what is happening in this time, in the landscape of the world, is because it helps to orient us in our experience. And when we're more oriented, we tend to feel more agency. We tend to liberate a little easier out of panic and paralysis. And so this teaching that we're going to go into can be very helpful for liberating that, for finding a place of, oh yeah, this is what I woke up inside of when I got here. This is where I'm trying to make my decisions. This is how I'm trying to move in the world. Knowing that all three of these are happening at the same time, and we find our way, we find our compass through it together, which is why this is group work after all. This is group work. John Seed, who is a brilliant, brilliant deep ecologist, many of you know from Australia, he says we need community therapies for this time. We come together, we remember together, and then we go back out into the world. Okay. Oh, hold on. Scooby-Dooby-Dip-Doop-Doo, I'll give you a song to occupy you while I do these sharing out on my computer. Here we go. Joanna, Joe. Okay, here we go.
And we know that this sense of alliance, this deep, loving belonging is there for us with countless people we don't even know yet, because this is the time of the great turning. This is the time when we're walking through the gates to have the fulfillment of our dreams of an ecological civilization. The great turning, there's so many other ways we can talk about
there's
it.
Something I wanted to point out. I want to invite us, every time we hear the word ecological, to hear that justice is also an ecological act. I find that missing. So when we say ecology, we don't need to divorce justice work and environmental work, that they are integrated, because everything in Joanna's work, the ecological self is the root of all being. So we are the earth humaning. We are not the humans on a dead separate planet. So when we hear ecological, when we hear the word ecology, we understand that justice is an ecological act, because it's all an ecological act. Okay, I just wanted to point that out. I'll go back.
Through the gates to have the fulfillment of our dreams of an ecological civilization. The great turning, there's so many other ways we can talk about it. That just happens to be a word we picked up and are using along with others, calling it the great turning. But some people call it the ecological revolution, or the sustainability revolution. And as a matter of fact, the first head of the William Ruckelshaus of the Environmental Protection back in the 70s was said, we are have before us now, and it's beginning now, or it's happening now. He named it in the 70s, and he said, this is the biggest revolution since the agricultural revolution. And it's comparable in magnitude and depth and scope, and But that back then, the agricultural that lasted generations, and or even more, that lasted centuries. And that was as big as the Industrial Revolution that came just a few centuries ago, and that lasted decades, for depending on the country that picked it up and what their resources have been. But he said, I'm still quoting those. This was what, early 70s, 50 years ago. And he said, and for us, it will have to happen in just a few years. And this isn't, be conscious. You were just swept up back then in the agricultural revolution, building settlements and trade. And you kind of stepped up in the agricultural revolution with finding new markets and mining and bringing in all that technical machine capacity to dig up and find new sources of energy from deep in the ground. But this we have to do, and we're in it. And this meeting of ours today, and the thinking that we've been doing all along in this exquisite series that Lydia has brought us, this is part of it. We're seeing with new eyes. We're listening with new ears. We're taking seriously our own feelings and thoughts and hunches, and we're taking seriously our own suffering and our sense of what is inhibiting and imprisoning us, locking us down. All of that we are using so much of our sensitivities to realize there's a new wind blowing. There is a new tide beginning. We are allowing ourselves to sense that. And
I love, first of all, just take a minute and notice how you feel. I feel invitation. So I'm rolling with that. I feel belonging. I feel an invitation, not just like to belong to the land as again, like a human that's divorced but I get to be in relationship with. I feel belonging as the earth rising up in my body to care for her own body. The earth rising up in my body to help pay attention to the landscape of what's happening on her body and help to hopefully empower healing on her body. And for me, that has been so, what's the word? Well, what has it been for you? You could put it in the chat. It's been so something for this time. It's been so, reparative, fortifying, empowering, possibility, yes, necessary, bolstering, compelling, affirming, mysterious. I love that. Yeah, let it be mysterious. I saw the Banksons perform a few nights ago. If you don't know them, you better check them out, the Banksons. And there was this song that Abigail Bankson was singing, and she was singing about us being in our mother's wombs. And she was saying, she was singing like you didn't know your mother, but you could feel your mother, so you could believe in your mother. I mean, it feels like that to me. It feels like that to me. Okay, now we're going into the 3 stories. How is it? Is it okay? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, great.
That's the great turning. Sometimes it comes with what you can hardly stand to contemplate. Like the homeless on the streets of your city. I refuse to accept that as normal. There were things that you would feel a deep, deep rejection of, or a restlessness, or a feeling that you don't fit. And it's the old paradigm that you were feeling. It doesn't fit like a too tight suit of clothes, like a vice around your head. And so the great turning begins with seeing that there are different stories that we can interpret our world, that we can, and and that things as they are or business as usual doesn't mean it's right. That's just a story. When you refuse to think that that's the ultimate, and that that's unchangeable, when you begin to question that, business as usual, the global capitalism, and it's even though that first story, let's talk about 3 stories. That first story is business as usual. You hear that from almost all the voices still, even now. You will hear it from a lot of the voices in government, in media, in business. That is the something. Oh, that's just the way things are. So the great turning starts with: do they have to be this way? Is it this way for everybody? And then you begin to noticing the failures of it. Yeah.
Something else I want to add, something else I want to add about business as usual is, so we can understand it for many of us, right? Not all of us, but many of us who live in a globalized economy that these are the mainstream ways that we are told who we are, and what we're supposed to pledge our lives to. The most important thing for you to do, for me, as soon as possible, immigrant family. At what age could I start working? Start working right away. Most important thing, get a job. Most important thing, get a job. And work that job for as many years as you can. And put your life force into that job. And you get 2 weeks off a year if you're in the States, 4 or 5 if you're in Europe. And I actually don't know what it is in other continents. And you get your time back to yourself when you're a good boy at 65 or after 6 p.m. And then you can go and be in your house with your own vacuum cleaner and everything that you bought yourself. That's one part of business as usual. Another part of business as usual is to trust the people in power. They're there because they deserve it. They're there because they deserve it. They're smart enough to be there. They know what's going on. So just listen to them. And if you question them, somehow that's like unpatriotic, which is ridiculous. Another part of business as usual is that one of the best ways that we have to create peace, to solve conflict really, between these things called countries is murder, is violence. I mean, this is just the way it is, right? You see that. So this is what Joanna and I are pointing to as we talk about business as usual. And it's also important to acknowledge the mixedness of business as usual, because we're so desperate for it to change that we can kind of only demonize it. I was able to get a surgery that saved my life 6 years ago when my appendix went haywire. I was able to go to my local hospital and get the surgery, and it saved my life. And I was able to access that because of the way healthcare was systematized in my area. Did I get holistic healthcare? No. Did I have a $50,000 bill after? Yes. Did it save my life? It did. I had access to that. I had a pretty good public school education. I don't think this thing would be being upheld if it wasn't mixed. And if we're going to really understand our world, I think we need to be able to see that and acknowledge that. So can we hold the tent? This work so much is about holding multiple things at the same time, understanding that it's all co-arising together. Okay.
So that's that first story. Even though most people talking that way, more and more people are thinking, this can't be the ultimate, no. And so then they see things. The other story is that things are falling apart beyond repair. And we call that the story of the great unraveling. I love the term. I got that term comes from David Corton, publisher of Yes. Because unraveling, the systems, both cultural systems, economic systems, biological systems, mental systems, cultural systems, they don't fall over dead, boom. They begin to fray. They begin to lose their coherence, begin to lose their memory. And that's what's happening to our planetary and cultural and geological and social cultural systems in this great unraveling. And in the climate catastrophe that is happening. And in the species losses that are happening. And that view of the world can just feel this is the end. Might as well just take care of ourselves while we still have some time left, either enjoy ourselves or hunker down with our families or get into see how long I can survive. But the third story
just to be with that, because we know it's part of our beloved world. We see the waters being poisoned. We see life being desecrated. This is often where we get overwhelmed, understandably, which is why this whole other dimension of Joanna's work that we go into in this course is how do we metabolize these feelings? How do we learn how to be with, how to stand up straight as we also acknowledge the hardships? Because we know that the wound will tell us the medicine, but first we have to learn how to be with the wound. We have to be able to manage our empathic pain together, share the load, right? Learn how to honor our grief, honor these things. They're not a weakness. They're not a lack of integrity. They're a sign of integrity. They are an intelligence moving through us. They arise from our interconnection, from the wisdom that we know we're in it together. We're not in it privately. And we're learning how to be alive in this time together. And so we practice. We practice acknowledging these hardships that are happening and asking, what is my response? What do I want to give anyway? What do I want to give because of this? What is the healing intelligence arising within my body? Because I know that when I get a cut on my arm, what is the primary signal that cut sends to my body? It's pain. And pain awakens the healing genius of my body, and it self-organizes around the cut. So we learn how to be with that pain. I wasn't even gonna go there, but we gotta go there, right? That's a part of being alive right now too.
That's the story of the Great Turning. That this is simply a transition, a revolution, just like that first head of the EPA was saying. These were revolutions in the story of our human time on planet Earth. And this is something we can be kind of, at least I'm very grateful to be alive in it, because there's such a scope. It's fascinating to watch what's becoming outmoded, even though that can sometimes make you gnash your teeth with, why are they still doing things this way? But this is we're to be alive in a time of transition. Isn't that exciting? One of the things it means is that your life takes on meaning. Yes, there's some ways that you can think, and some things that you can do, and some things you can read and promote and take action and link arms with other people to bring into reality, because you are become a maker when you live in a time of transition like this. We're kind of
There's a teaching that Joanna often gives on the gifts of uncertainty, and so I want to bring that in here. That these three stories, right? Business as usual, the great unraveling, the great turning. We don't point them out because we know which one is gonna win. We know which one we would like to win. When I say win, I mean which one will have priority in the legacy of the human story. But Joanna would always say, you can't trust anyone who tells you we're gonna make it out of this, and you can't trust anyone who tells you we're not. We live on that knife's edge of uncertainty, but what that uncertainty can do is it can liberate us to find our truest intention independent of outcome. It can liberate us to clarify for ourselves our truest intention independent of outcome, meaning, I don't know what's going to happen. What do I want to do anyway? Okay, so I don't know. I will give beauty anyway. I will carry on these teachings anyway. I will sing with groups of people anyway. I will love this world anyway. I don't actually need to know what's going to happen and know what I give myself to. And that I find very helpful for those of us stuck in panic and paralysis, which comes in and out. We live in a society that tends to say, well, prove it. Prove it before you pledge yourself to it. I don't know that this is like that. I don't know that the great turning lives in that space. Because we also know that as many of us giving to it as possible is what makes it even have a shot. Okay, so now we're going to go into the 3 dimensions of the great turning. I might go 10 minutes over. Just letting you know.
Surfing this time, and we have to keep our balance. And we've got to be really ready to adjust and let go of what isn't working. And we've got to keep our eyes on, when you're keeping your balance, on what you're aiming toward. And so that's what this shift to a life-sustaining civilization or culture of diversity and fairness and balance. The Great Turning itself, and this revolutionary time we're in, has itself, and this is really important to see, because this in itself now is a new way of thinking. Oh, I'm going to hold it up. Oh, yes. Lydia okay, all right. See, now it has these 3 ways, 3
Stories.
Yeah, those are the 3 stories we just talked about. Business as usual, great unraveling, the great turning. And now, under the great, can they see? Oh, you hold it, good.
Here, I'll hold it next to you.
Yes.
Da-da-da, like a flip chart.
Yes. Lydia flip chart. Yeah, okay. All right, so that these, I sort of go in this direction because it's the most obvious. Holding actions are the actions we undertake to save what is left, to defend the gains we've made, and to defend life from what is destroying it. And so that it doesn't change anything of the structures or the ways we do things, but what it does, and this has to be, and we generally think of activism in these terms, as that this is where we first it's legislative and legal, when we to stop business as usual from destroying more of life, from cutting down all the forests. So that will include then, of course, direct actions, civil disobedience. That's included too in the holding actions. And because you're defending, so that it's incredibly important. First of all, it's what we tend to think of as activism. And then it's also, it's preserving what we can of the life that is so threatened now. So that this can, like our work to abolish our huge incarceral system, the prisons that are unspeakably wasteful and cruel and basically nuts. But then the next
I
is,
write new and remembered Gaian systems. That's what I do.
New and remembered Gaian systems.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's good. So that we establish ways of doing things in our, basically in our ways of self-governance, in our institutions, the foundations we build for our economy and our society and our courts. And we invent them,
Lydia's
and
holding the
then we
chart.
find them and revive them from, you know, where there's an immense treasury of ways that back through in earlier days of our living on this planet, there are ways that we had of self-governing and of caring for our planet that we need to, that we can inspire us to bring them back to life and reinvent them with our new tools. And so that's building the foundations of an ecological civilization. So what is this? This, in recognition, this is shift in consciousness, because it makes us realize that neither holding actions nor building new or ancient structures can last if they are built on our old value systems, on who we think we are and what we think we need and what we think we have to behave and how we think we need to control each other. We need to awaken to a new sense of what and who we are. And this is a recognition that we are part of a living world. We are a living part, an essential member of the living body of Earth. And that in turn is part of this solar system and this incredible intelligence of the universe itself. Mm-hmm. This deep sense of belonging comes with this one, with this third dimension, that you belong.
Isn't it good? It's so good. It's so helpful. Okay, I want to talk about this for a second because this is really why I wanted to bring us together today. The 3 dimensions of the Great Turning is such a wonderful teaching that many organizations, many people have used for a long time. And it honors that it's very helpful to be able to use as a lens, right? So as the intelligence to repair life comes through on the planet, it comes through in different ways. That there is a great need to slow down harmful things that are desecrating and harming life. That this, as Joanna has said, it happens in injunctions, in courtrooms, in protests, in campouts that slow down development, in boycotts, anything that cripples business, harmful aspects of business as usual, right? To slow down harm. Holding actions buy time. As we buy time, we have new and remembered Gaian systems that have even more space to take hold. Paul Hawking also calls this the blessed unrest, that there's never been as many ways of organizing life to support life as there are now on the planet. That this is a decentralized, non-local movement. Ways of organizing food and water and building and education and economy. I mean, there's thousands, maybe there's millions. And I've added something new. This was new Gaian systems, new and remembered Gaian systems. This is also how we keep evolving these teachings, right? Thank God we don't have to think of it all. newly today. There's like a wellspring of life affirming wisdoms that have been repressed that we can lift the top off of, that we can hear, that we can collaborate with. And there's new ones. There's both, that we can celebrate that. We can collaborate with that together. We can have our eyes out for that. And then, as Joanna said, I often find it's people working in shifts in consciousness that doubt if what they're doing is helping at all. But I think that's also because we've inherited what's called a mechanistic mindset, where we mechanomorphize the world and everything in it. We project machine-like qualities onto everything. We deny that internal and relational landscapes are something to nourish, that are invaluable, that our consciousness helps to sustain these acts in the world. So these are artists, musicians, teachers, educators, spiritual teachers, this webinar, dance, therapists, and that the Great Turning is a collaboration of all these, which is why it is so important for us to compassionately see what each other is fighting for in these times, for us to give permission for the slowing down of harm to be important, for the generation of life to be important, for the tending of consciousness to be important. Rather than limiting the options for the Great Turning, let us give permission to them. Let us collaborate and be emergent and learn how to flock together. I'm in the United States, and so I see a big example of this in the election, that we are trying to really understand, how do we block harm and give life and learn all at the same time? What is the move that does that? And if we silence each other and we can't even have the conversation, how are we going to get there? So my job in this election, I find right now, is to open the gates of dialogue, is to hold spaces where we can open the gates of dialogue and build vision together and learn right action together. This way that we have cut off dialogue is only hurting us. We must learn how to love each other's struggle through finding right action, even if it makes us uncomfortable, even if we don't agree, to see the merit in it, to these black and white polarizations. So that was is now, this is what I mean by, wow, Joanna's work only gets more relevant. This teaching was created like 35 years ago. And here it is applying to that one situation. And then it can also, if maybe you're not experiencing that, and maybe you're not in the US, and maybe, and hopefully it also feels descriptive of your experience where you are in the Great Turning. And that we learn how to flock together, that great vision from Adrienne Maree Brown. I'm just letting it sink in. Thank you. I want to say thank you. Thank you for showing up today and being in this dialogue. It'd be way more boring in my own head. I want to hear from a couple of you. Okay, I want to hear from a couple. I can't help it. I want to hear from a couple of you. So I just want to say before we open this up that I ask for a guideline of a balance of self-care and group care, that if you do share, that it's to shape of the arc of this conversation together, knowing we have 15 more minutes. So we'll do this for like 10 minutes and then I'll show the closing clip and we'll close out our time together. Okay? Would anyone like to share their voice, a question, a comment? You can either raise your hand like this, if I see you, or you raise your yes. Gary?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for this presentation. And it's really wonderful. And yeah, you're reviewing and enhancing and expounding on this beautiful teaching from Joanna Macy. I really appreciate it. I want to say I was a little boy growing up in the Willamette Valley of Oregon. I'm in Minnesota now, but um, and I saw these old forests rich with life. Just we would go by them in the car one day, and then the next week there would just be rubble. The tree, everything was gone, just rubble. And then a month later, you would either have industrial agriculture there or building houses. And I saw that we are thriving by killing life.
Yeah,
We are ecocidal. That is, we thrive by killing all of the life around us. And that ends up being suicidal.
that's right.
And I think that business as usual has been conducted this way for several thousand years, and it's only intensified, and it's much, much intensified with the Industrial Revolution and now with the digital revolution and so forth. And so that business as usual story, was propped up by lies. For example, decades of lies about global warming and climate change and so forth and so on.
Is being held up by lies. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it doesn't have integrity. It can't
Mm,
hold together. And I
mm,
was just thinking about integrity as it
mm,
means holding it together. And
love that.
so we're losing cohesion, but the great turning is holding it together. So just by telling the true story to ourselves and one another and holding it together, we change the energy field. This changes the energy field. And I just want to encourage you with that. This alone brings a new energy to our world and a new light to our world. And that
Thank
may
you,
be all we
Gary.
can do, but it's a start. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Gary. Yes. Holding together. Joanna would often say that the work that reconnects, which is a body of group work that she synthesized over 45 years, that we will, if you want to continue further, I'm supposed to keep promoting this class, so I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. It's not the most comfortable thing, but it is how we are supported as a school, and it is what I do and what I want to give to the world. So it's the Essential Joanna Macy. It starts on September 21st or 19th, and Leilani will put the link in the chat. And it's all this. It's me teaching, and it's these recordings of Joanna. It will hold us through this US election cycle. It will also hold you wherever you are in the world, and we will move through this together. And I do really believe in it, and that's what I'm going to say about it right now. And I did it. I did it! Okay. But Joanna would say the work that reconnects was simply giving space for us to speak our truth, to not lie anymore, so that we could feel our authentic responses and let them shape us. I love that. I love that. Okay. We probably have time for like one or two more. So, Arhana?
Hi, thank you so much, Lydia. My name is Arana, and I have touched in with Joanna for many, many years here and there, and so grateful for what you're doing. I've heard many great things about you from many mutual friends.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I just wanted to acknowledge that for me, a huge part of the great turning is also about turning towards my joy, whatever that is for me, for anyone, and that our joy is actually incredibly resourceful for these times.
Yeah.
And I think it's so easy to tell ourselves that joy can't be included in this because it's so serious
Mm,
and urgent. But the joy is what's actually a huge part of what's going to fuel this turning. And
mm-hmm.
And part of that joy for me personally is about really coming to see that I am a small yet integral part of this beautiful web of life, and that I'm also part of something very long and ancient and also forward moving. So it's like a double axis of
Absolutely.
above and below and horizontal,
Yeah.
back and back and forward, forward, forward. And there's so much joy in that. So I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to acknowledge that, and thank you so much, dear one.
So I want to uplift what you're saying because, in my experience, both joy and grief are reparative forces in our world, are reparative intelligences in our world. Because the great turning on behalf of what? So that every human being and every being on this planet can liberate into pleasure in their lifetimes, right? And there is a hardship that is blocking that for much of life on this planet that we want to pivot and we want to move. Pleasure is a beautiful compass and a healing force. I saw a question in the chat that I just want to acknowledge real quick because it's an important one. It was saying like 90% of the people in this room are women. Why is that? I just want to honor that. That has been my experience too. And I hope that we can turn that over the next 30 years of my teaching. I see that as like a long-term, hopefully reparative thing that will happen in my lifetime, where these spaces that want to honor the heart-mind attention to life have more and more men, have more and more people of color, have more and more, and some of mine do, I have to say, usually the in-person ones. But I just want to acknowledge, like, yeah, that's a thing. Not everywhere, but that's a thing. And so let's invite more and more of the men in our lives to come and just hang out and listen, and see if they're into it. Okay, it felt important to just even acknowledge that. I'm going to actually close, but I'm so sorry to all of you who have things to share. Come to the class because I want to hear from all of you. And if you want to put it in the chat, put it in the chat. Yes, it could be in the next 3 years. I welcome that. I welcome that. It could be in the next 3 years. Heck yeah. I do have to say, I have seen more men over time, but also, yeah, it's still like majority women, genderqueer folks. But I'll have this conversation with whoever wants to come in the room. I know that. I know that. Collective liberation. Okay, I'm going to bring in the end of Joanna's teaching here. Has the link, yeah, okay, great. The link to the course is in the chat, The Essential Joanna Macy. You'll also get an email about it. I should say we're shifting email servers this week. And so just check if you want to find out about it, just check your spam folder because we're not spam. We're the Great Turning. So yeah, but before we kind of move into our closing, I don't know. I just want to look at your faces one more time. And if you want to give me a visual of anything you received today, I will take it with me. Don't worry, we have like 5 more minutes, but this is for me. I mean, you can come off mute too, but it might be kind of chaotic with 184 people, but I'm just looking at you.
Thank you. Love and keep turning.
Aww. Aww.
Blessings to you, dear.
Aww.
Great job.
We're in it together, everyone. We're in it together.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Yes. A big yes to
Heck yeah.
Much love. We're here to love. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less, nothing else.
Look
Love.
at us all.
Right
And
on.
from Canada, you're bang on.
Deep gratitude. Thank you. Thank you.
Aww.
Many
From
blessings.
the UK, thank you.
Oh my God, Dennis! Dennis Rivers is on the call. Dennis has worked with Joanna for decades, has given birth to. Dennis, put your link in the chat or something. Check
Okay.
out Dennis Rivers' work. Check it out.
Thanks so much, Lydia. It's
Oh.
great to be together with everybody.
This is so good for me. After I close, I'm gonna do this again. But I'm gonna close this so that people who need to go can go. Okay. I think I will end with Joanna's words. And so, I mean, I'll pop back on after, but I just want to say we got this. And the Great Turning is a worthwhile adventure. And Joanna would say it's the essential adventure of our time. And if you want to learn more about it, School for the Great Turning is here. We are working hard every day to not go anywhere. And I look forward to telling Joanna about this webinar because she always wants to know what happened to the last thing you did and how did it go and what happened and what did people say and how did it do? And again, this course that we have coming up is 8 weeks. It's teaching. I created the course with Joanna. We designed it together. It's 8 weeks going through the primary pillars of her work to hold us in these times. And there's a bunch of videos from Joanna as well in it, and it's a mix of the two. So the link will go in the chat again, and you'll get emails about it. And I love you. All right. Here is Joanna's closing. They can see.
And that you can draw on this, that you have far greater resources than we could ever imagine coming out of the kind of, in so many ways, the civilization that we've been part of, based so much on hyper individualism and on private property. So much of that has been shrinking to the human spirit. It's been like a kind of foot binding to the spirit. We hardly have any idea of the reserves of creativity and inventiveness and patience and endurance and inspiration that are there for us, my dear ones. It's vast what is there for you and for me and for all of us as we tune in. And there are ways of tuning in that we're finding, and you've some that you've discovered. And trust them. Trust the love that comes in you, that erupts in you for life itself, for all beings. Trust that. Trust your impatience sometimes when you think there must be a better way of conceiving this. Trust that and just and garb yourself in the patience of intense creativity. Listen to the wild thoughts that are there. Listen to the wild thoughts bringing us home.
Thank you for coming today. I look forward to seeing some of you again soon. And just remember that the majority of the people you are in collaboration with, you will never meet, but they're there. In the same way that you're seeing all these new faces today, but they've been there. They've been there in the Great Turning with you. I'm going to officially close the webinar now and then go into morning coffee happy hour, where I'm happy to stay on for a few minutes and meet anyone who wants to say hi and meet and get to know each other. And I love that. So thank you so much for coming, and we'll be in touch. I hope this was nourishing and empowering.